Captain.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Resident Evil 3 Remake review discussion. I am your host, Logan Moore, the managing editor here at DualShockers, and I am joined by Ricky. Is it Frech? I've never said your last name out loud. Ricky.
It is Frech.
Frech. See, I didn't know if it was going to be the CK type thing, even though it's a CH, or if it was like French without the N. So now
usually places I go, I spell it with a K just so people say it right, but yeah.
We're also joined by video guru at DualShockers, Mario Rivera. Mario, hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay. I've been fighting zombies and Nemesis and all that, like we all have.
Oh, yeah, same.
So, like I said, this is our review discussion of Resident Evil 3. We have been spending the past week or so playing the game. You are probably hearing our thoughts the day the embargo is up. So our full review should be up on the website and stuff like that if you want to read a written version of our thoughts on the game from Ricky himself. But to just get right into everything, generally, I think we all like the game in a general sense, and I know we've got some more detailed things we can get into here in a second. But Ricky, you're the reviewer. You definitely were largely positive on this from what you came away with, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think that it will, as far as if you compare it to Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think it is as a similarly good game, but for different reasons. So, like, they took a lot of the stuff that people might not have liked about Resident Evil 2 and improved it, but then in other ways I think they've taken some steps back just from the making it a genre of survival horror where it's more action-oriented now. So it's kind of like, depending on what you prefer, is which game you're going to prefer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Mario, where are you at, in a broad sense?
In a broad sense, I think that this game is, in terms of the gameplay, very much lives up to the Resident Evil 2 that came out last year. The ongoing just mechanics of the game and the sort of like the movement, the actual action, the shooting actually feels really good. The general items that you get, the actual equipment that adds on, and basically all the attachments that make your guns better. Like, I think that is the best part about this game still, and that's just to be a very great carry-on from 2. In terms of like the actual story, to me that's where a lot of things falter from. I would say even from what I remember from the remake, from the original, to all the way from even 2, which 2 is still a superior game. I still like this game. I've played it twice now, so to say that I haven't liked this game is not true. I am heavily critical on a lot of the aspects of the game.
Yeah, we'll get into those because you were talking to me about it before I finished it, and I finished it like 2 nights ago at this point, and I definitely see where you're coming from with a lot of your criticisms of it, which we'll get into. Broadly, myself, Resident Evil 2 is a better game from last year. This is not bad by any stretch whatsoever.
100%.
It is just, it's just different. Like, Resident Evil is a more puzzle-heavy, tight, focused experience where you're in the police station, you're in the sewers, like all these areas that they created in that game are very tight and they're very interconnected. There is some of that here in Resident Evil 3, but the game as a whole is much more linear, and you are doing a whole lot more shooting and fighting and stuff like that. And I think at face value, so the weird thing about this, I guess, to not get into too long of a tangent, but like, Resident Evil is a series, like the 3 games in the franchise that have really never been widely available in the past 15, 20 years, honestly, is Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and then Resident Evil Code Veronica. Those are the ones that have kind of been locked away and haven't been remade like Resident Evil 1 was at one point on the GameCube, and then that came to other platforms down the road with an HD version. It seems like every Resident Evil game in the franchise has like been ported or has come to other systems. Those are the 3 main like Raccoon City Saga games that have never really come to other platforms. So now they're remaking 2 and 3. 2 felt really true to, I think, what people remember from that game. And then 3, I'm going to be honest, I don't think a lot of people remember 3 because 3 was a much more linear action-heavy game where it is all about, hey, the city's about to blow up, you're Jill Valentine, you need to get out of the city, and there's a giant zombie tank chasing you. And that was basically the whole pitch of the game. And it was a way shorter experience, and it was way more run-based, and it was way more action-heavy. And I'll be honest, like, I didn't really remember that myself until I played through this, and I definitely, coming off of playing Resident Evil 2 last year, I thought it was kind of odd that this was like, not that they're in the same series or anything like that, but like that they just do have very different styles to them in some regard. Like this game has puzzles in it and things like that, and there's a lot of backtracking, and there's a lot of Resident Evil 2 crossover things in this as well, but it is much more straightforward in a lot of senses. And so I'm curious more, like, I like this, and I'm more just curious to see how everybody else is going to respond, because I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, they took out a lot of stuff from Resident Evil 2 that I liked last year, and that's not in this. And it's like going to be like, well, it was never actually really in there, because this game, the only thing I feel like people remember from this game is Nemesis himself, and that is about
100%.
That is about it.
Yeah.
I feel like the actual structure of it has fallen by the wayside over the years, and people kind of forget how this game has always been laid out. And I feel like with this remake, it's a pretty faithful recreation of that to a certain degree.
To a certain degree, and I think, you know, I've self-admitted that I've actually gone back and watched some coverage on it, just of the original game, because I wanted to see like what were the major differences. And without going too deep on that, there are certain things where I'm like, I actually wish that they did it like they did in the original, as opposed to how they approach it in this version, specifically about Nemesis. But ultimately, yeah, it is interesting, to say the least.
Let's just get right into Nemesis, because I think that's going to be the main thing a lot of people are interested in hearing about, because again, like I said, that's the main thing that people associate with Resident Evil 3 is, that's the one with Nemesis in it. And Nemesis is like maybe one of the most beloved Resident Evil characters. Dude's been in Marvel vs. Capcom and all kinds of stuff over the years, so people remember him.
Yeah, and to be fair, like when Resident Evil 2, and I love Resident Evil 2, I didn't remember Mr. X, to be totally honest. In my mind, it was always Nemesis. So yeah, it's interesting how now I feel, 20 years later.
The opposite. You like Mr. X more rather than Nemesis?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, that's the thing. I think broadly, I can kick this to you, Ricky, and maybe you can touch on this a little bit more. But I think all three of us were kind of disappointed by Nemesis in this game. He's not bad by any means, but it's just...
No.
Yeah, I think he had large shoes to fill coming into this game because of how we remember him.
100%.
Well, I think a lot of Nemesis not being as memorable in this one as opposed to Mr. X's comes down to you being more capable, because like when you're playing as Claire and Leon, you don't have a quick dodge to get by them, but with Jill, or even, Carlos never gets chased, but when you're playing as Jill, you can just perfect dodge past him, and like it feels cool. It's a cool move, and it, like, in my head, it was like, well, of course Jill's better at moving around because she's battle hardened and tested by the zombies from the Spencer Mansion, and Leon's a rookie cop and Claire's a civilian, so it makes sense that Jill can handle stuff better. But how it works in the game is then nothing ever feels as scary, because even though Nemesis can like shoot his tentacle out and fly in front of you and get in your way, you can always just dodge past him. And I don't want to say mastered the perfect dodge, but early on it felt like whenever I needed to, I could do it. So it takes away a lot of that tension that comes from trying to run away from Mr. X when you can't just roll past him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my second playthrough, I just rolled my eyes every time I saw him. And I knew, and I knew when he was coming, and it was just like, yeah, no. 100%.
The only part of Nemesis that was cool to me, well, I shouldn't say the only part, but one of the coolest parts was really early. You go in that, and hopefully, I don't think this is,
anything after the subway, after you get to the subway, I think we can talk about.
Anything after subway,
Okay, Capcom has requested, to clarify, Capcom has requested we don't talk about certain aspects of this game.
The
day we are posting this. So.
So you go into that donut shop, and it's got a safe room in it, and you're inside you're inside the donut shop, and the zombies can't come in there. At least I never saw a zombie go in there, and so I was thinking, oh, even this room is safe, and Nemesis doesn't care. He just comes in there. He can't go in the safe room. But I was really surprised. I was like, oh, I'm safe when I go through this door. And he just walked right through and kept following me. I was like, oh, crap. And that was the only time I ever felt scared.
Or are you talking about the donut shop?
Not in the safe room, just in the donut shop.
Yeah, you're
because
right. Okay.
I never saw a zombie go in there. And so I didn't think he would go in there either. But he doesn't care. He does whatever he wants. Well, not whatever he wants, but almost whatever he wants.
It's a carryover from Resident Evil 2 where there's like a magical force field that stops people from going into the safe room.
Yeah. The scariest part about that to me, about that whole... I agree, that's the part when he's the most intense in the whole game, is that little section right there when you're in that part of Raccoon City. if you go, so on the other side of that donut shop, so if you go down those steps and then the donut shop's right in front of you, if you run through it and then you come out on the other side, and then that's how you get to the subway or activation thing area. Anyway, there's like if you guys remember this, there's like a chained gate over there to the left side or whatever.
Yes.
It's like kind of right in front of the door of the donut shop.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I ran across Nemesis, I was like, oh shoot, and I like ran into that donut shop and I just kind of kept running and I ran straight through and I busted out the doors on the other side and I had the wire or the chain cutters at that time, so I was like, oh, I want to get through, see what's over here in this alleyway or whatever now, because I hadn't been able to get there before. I started running towards that direction. Nemesis flies over the back of my head, lands in front of that chain fence, and just stares right at me. I'm like, I guess I'm not going down this alleyway at the moment. So like, there are cool moments like that where like you think like, oh, he's just behind me, whatever. I can just keep running from him. No, this dude's like the Incredible Hulk. He will like fly out of the sky, jump. And like those things are really cool, I think, with him.
I would
Largely,
say,
Did you guys see him? Did you guys see him fly a tentacle up onto a wall ever? Because that was
I don't
wild.
think so.
There was one time he was
No.
chasing me down an alleyway, and he was behind me, and then I saw him fly over my head and land on the wall, and then like look at me and wait for me to go past it and drop down back behind me. And that was
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's some really cool moments with him. Like if we're definitely, I don't think we're downplaying it, but we're all. I guess what I should say is like he really only feels like Nemesis in this way we're talking about in this kind of one area we're also talking about him with.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of leads to my point with why I didn't care for him as much in this game was because in the original game, and I don't remember this exactly. Again, I don't even exactly remember this. It felt almost unscripted when he would show up. This game is much more scripted when he appears because he is doing different things. Again, I think we can talk about this. They've showed this stuff, but like in one instance he'll show up and he's just throwing his tentacles at you. Another instance he shows up and hey, I found a rocket launcher now. I'm trying to shoot you with rockets. And like these are like he keeps showing up and following you and he's stalking you throughout the whole game. But the moments when he's doing things are much more scripted and then they play out in very linear fashions.
Yeah,
it is less like Resident Evil 2 where Mr. X shows up and you are still trapped in this pretty small confines of a police station for another probably 2 hours of gameplay, and you hear this dude just stomping around all over.
The fact that he is still actively looking for you is terrifying.
Yes.
Like
Mr. X is like constantly looking for you. You can constantly hear him. You know he's around somewhere, and you know that this map you are in is not that big enough to where he can't not show up somewhere.
Yeah.
Nemesis, however, like the areas you're in are much more linear. They're smaller too, so you really can't hide from him, which I guess is kind
you know what? Nemesis has a schedule to keep, and he's always on time when he arrives when he needs to be. He's always there, especially even in that opening section with him, where it's just like, okay, this is the time where he gets free time, and then later it's like, okay, I got to be here for this fight or this thing, and it's just like, I could have swore that this is not a spoiler for this game, but I could have swore there was more. Unless I'm totally misremembering, I could have swore there was more like punching through walls.
I thought there was too.
Yeah.
He really only does that like once or twice. I feel like I feel like when I remember playing original Resident Evil 3, it happened like 7 or 8 times throughout the course of that game.
Yes.
But I played that game when I was probably in the 7th grade or something like that, and one afternoon, and that was the only time I ever played it. So, I guess to kind of wrap up where we're at with Nemesis, I know we can't talk about some of this stuff too much, just in a broad sense. Like, how did you guys feel about some of the later game portions of Nemesis in a general sense?
I think that's kind of the part of the problem is that he switches from being Mr. X to Birkin, like halfway through the game.
100%.
Which I guess is fine, but I don't know. I felt like him not being that stalking presence throughout lost a lot, and I guess you'd have to, I don't know, you'd have to add a whole nother villain or a whole nother monster like Birkin to keep him around.
Personally, I kind of wish that they did, because I really feel like I can count a lot of the creatures with one hand, but
in this game,
there's not many
that are not reused in 2.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Pretty much. That's about right. Like in it, like we were saying, like this is a much more shorter experience, and it always has been. So like in some ways, I'm fine with that.
So here,
but
I do want to push back on that because I know you said that about this game, and I feel like, granted, this is a year after RE2.
Yeah.
I feel, and it hasn't been completely confirmed, but I have a feeling that this and RE2 were definitely being worked on the exact same time.
Oh, for sure.
Potentially could have been one package, to be totally honest. And I brought that up to you where I felt like this game very much. See, I feel bad saying these things. I don't think they're spoilery, but I want to say, like, to me, I told you that this game to me feels like a Borderlands expansion, or just an expansion pack to a better game. And when it comes,
the better game is Resident Evil 2.
The better game is Resident Evil 2, but in terms of this, where I felt like they could have just expanded on so much more and gave more weight, especially when it comes to character relationships. And the characters in general in this game are, like, real thin. Not saying, like, they have to be the most nuanced characters. It's just that, to me, they're just presented as, like, to me, like, paper dolls to lead you to the story. And I think we've come far from the 90s. And I thought that, at the very least, they would expand that in this game. And I personally don't feel like they do. So even though it is a short linear experience and, you get through point A to point B, I still wish there was more. I wish there was maybe another monster, another threat. Because at the very least, with Resident Evil 2, you have, Birkin, but then you also have Mr. X or, something. I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have more Carlos.
Yeah,
honestly.
100%.
There's windows for it too, so.
There are. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like Jill kind of landed a little. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because this is like the story of this game is a third chapter in a larger series. So like Jill gets way more fleshed out, and obviously like Resident Evil 1 and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then we're picking up here with her, and it's like her main character attributes have like already kind of been stated or whatever in previous games. So then we're just kind of picking back up with her again in this one. Yeah. So like in that sense, I feel like it's. I don't know, like, it's just weird to do a remake of a third game in a larger series where a lot of the characters have already been introduced. Yeah. I do agree Carlos could have used more. And the other thing I was going to say is a lot of the other characters in the supporting cast are extremely one note. Like, I think you even 100%. Mentioned this in your review, Ricky, but just like, I don't know. Again, it's very strange to like try to be dodgy about spoilers here for a 22-year-old video game. But, like,
I think at the end of this, I'll break it out to another video, but we can do spoilers.
Yeah, we can if we want to. I don't know how much there is to spoil, honestly. Like at the end of the game,
I can complain about things.
like by the end of this game, Raccoon City is still not around. So, yeah, like the dude who kind of revealed, I don't want to say the main villain or whatever because that's still Nemesis or whatever, but one of the antagonists in this game is just like extremely one note from the opening second you see them.
100%.
It's like, so yeah, stuff like that is like totally whatever to me. But yeah, gameplay wise, I think outside of the story and the characters and Nemesis himself, like the gameplay is still just as good as it was in RE2, which was like the thing that I really took away from that game. I think definitely less puzzle heavy, but like it's still just this game feels so good to play. I think in a general sense.
I know that you haven't played RE6, and it's not a good game. But
I will rectify that.
This is a better version of that game, 100%. This is at the very least feels more grounded. That is, I mean, it's that clip from the animated movie Vendetta where they're just like play fighting and shooting each other and missing entirely. Like that's Resident Evil 6. This is definitely a more grounded version of that, and it keeps the groundedness from RE2, and that's why I think the gameplay is so great because it's just more of RE2. It's just you get to do more in that and explore it, and it's more of an action because you get also really cool guns. I think this game sings with the gameplay, but also it sings because the gameplay because it was already in the last one.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what you said. Like they were both developed clearly.
Yeah, and that's
side
fine.
by side with one another, and that's a good thing.
I think that's a good thing.
The last one was very good, so it's good that they brought a lot of that stuff over.
Yeah, this works in slow pace and high pace.
What are some other things we could talk about here? I'm trying to think. I know.
Yeah, we're dancing around.
What'd you say?
I said we're dancing around the list here.
Yes. Yeah, there are some, like I said, a lot of things that Capcom has asked us to not talk about here. I think one thing worth mentioning is Resident Evil Resistance. That is packed in with this package. I have not played that as of the time where we're talking about this. We're recording this the Friday before embargo. Ricky, you have played a little bit of it. Is there anything you want to talk about with that?
I will say that it's very hard to judge because right now it takes about... they pushed back the PlayStation 4 beta, so there's no one playing except for, I guess, other press people. I don't know. I had some French guy was talking to me in one of my games. That's all I can tell you. And it took like 10 minutes plus to get into any game. So I played like 3 times and then gave up. So far, it seems like it seems like it could be really cool if you're into the type of one versus many type of games like this, where one person is the mastermind. In this case, you play as someone. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who. You play as a person, and they can magically put out zombies and other monsters for you to fight and put out traps, and then they can shoot you with a machine gun, and then everyone else plays as a survivor. And you all have like different abilities. Some of them are cooler than others. And you try to get through 3 stages of a round, and as you make it through each stage, you get umbrella credits, which isn't a premium currency. It's how you buy guns in the game to upgrade your guns, and if you can make it through, you win the game. And right now, the current meta is that the mastermind lets you do whatever you want, basically, for the first part of the game, and then whenever you get to an exit, they dump the game full of zombie dogs and shoot you with a machine gun and hope to kill one of you, because all 4 of you have to be there to make it through the exit. And if you die, you go back to the start of the area. So if you're in the 3rd area, you go back all the way back to the start, and then you have to run back. And I haven't won yet.
I bet.
But how long do matches take in the general sense?
15 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, depending.
Okay.
The tutorial makes you feel like they're 4 minutes long.
Well, so you have a 5-minute timer, and that timer is constantly ticking down. If you get bitten or clawed by a zombie, it goes down by a few seconds. If you make it through the escape, you get like a minute extra for the next stage. And so, your time is constantly going up and down, just depending on you doing stuff. Like if you find an herb and you pick it up, or ammo and pick it up, you get time. So it's constantly going back up and down. So it doesn't really take that long, but I would say 15 to 20 minutes. So they're not that long of games, but when you're waiting just as long to get into a game, you would wish they were a little longer, I guess. But I could see it getting very fun as people get good at it. I don't know if it's the type of game I would want to play, just because relying on the strangers to do a good job in a team is always tough. So I don't know if I would get into it. But I feel like there's a lot of potential there for if a community wanted to get into it, but who knows?
Forcing all 4 players to have to reach the end together is a pretty tall task. Like I feel like in comparison to other asymmetrical multiplayer games like this, like it'll be compared to like Friday the 13th and stuff like that. Like everybody's fighting Jason together in that game, but they're also just trying to escape on their own, which I think is a much easier pitch. And this, this will encourage teamwork, I guess, more than anything. But hard to work with a group of people you don't really know, like League of Legends.
I wonder if they will change that, because that is a big ask for 4 people to get, and the time limit is ticking down the more you get attacked and everything. And so it's like,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because it's like, well, like you said, those other games. Like for instance, I played a lot of Dead by Daylight, and it's very much like, man, once the gate is open, it's all man for himself at the end. So I don't know, maybe interesting.
And I could be wrong. There could be a way to get less people through. Because it does come up, like if you get all 3 people, I think. See, and it happens so fast that it's hard to remember what it says. Like if you get all 4 people through a stage to the next stage, and no one went down, you get an extra minute. I've never seen you get through a stage with a person going down.
Interesting.
And so I've never seen it happen. Maybe it's possible for for like 3 people to make it through, but as far as I could tell, you can't.
It's very hard to play the game right now, so I totally understand. To me, it's very much like this is a Dead by Daylight with Saw, with a card mechanic.
Yes. Oh yeah. There's it looks like a ton of like equipment you can equip, and cosmetics. There's loot boxes, which is just great. Everyone loves those.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm curious to try it out more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to see how the community responds to it too, because I think that was the one thing that everybody's like, because when they announced it, everybody thought it was going to be a separate game, and they're like, I don't know about this one, and they're like, just kidding, it's packaged with this game you all like.
Yes.
And then that made everybody happy.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
the thing is, I wrote something about this like months ago with Capcom, because when they announced this or revealed they were doing this, they got a lot of blowback. I was like, guys, I think we can allow Capcom to stretch their legs here a little bit and like just kind of screw around and try something new, because they've been on such a tear lately that if this dumb multiplayer game mode for Resident Evil does not do anything, then like that doesn't ruin the fact that they have put out so many great games.
They were on a perfect streak.
They were on a perfect streak.
They were.
But maybe the campaign alone can carry this game still. Which is probably how it'll be for a lot of people anyway.
Yeah. Are we allowed to say how long it takes us to beat it, or do you think that's a spoiler?
I mean, it's a Resident Evil. It's a Resident Evil campaign. Like I don't know. I don't feel like it's that surprising. Like if you remember the old games, they're not that long. Like it's not in the notes. It took me about 6 hours. I know it took you shorter, Mario.
5, but then the second time I did it was 4:30.
I don't feel like the Leon and Claire routes were very long in that game though.
Are there at least 12?
What?
12 for one? Or total?
No, for both.
Oh,
for
okay.
both.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
To me, I count them as one game.
Yeah.
Kind of. Ricky points out something in his review that I pointed out in my Resident Evil 2 review last year. But the way those campaigns tie in RE2 has never made sense, and it doesn't make... It's like... I don't understand it at all. It's supposed to be that they're happening at the same time.
You brought that up earlier, and you have to let that go, because at the same time, you are constantly being bitten by zombies, and yet you are not infected.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dumb video game. Like, I get that. But, like, the way those games intertwine, people are always like, I love both of the campaigns in Resident Evil 2. I love how they intertwine with one another. It's like, what are you talking about? The way they mix with one another doesn't make any sense. Why are you all solving these same puzzles in this police station? Like, if Leon solved them already... Why isn't Claire just able to get through?
At least, fair enough. But at least try to compensate that with the AB stuff. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, last thing I wanted to mention here, assuming we're starting to wrap up with this. The one thing that I think is markedly better in this game than Resident Evil 2 is just the way it looks. And Resident Evil 2 was a gorgeous game. 3 looks like... I don't know, man. They continue to fine-tune this RE engine that they have, and every single game that comes out on it looks better than the last one. Like, I thought DMC 5 looked better than RE2, and this looks better than I thought DMC looked. Like, they are continually one-upping and refining how characters look in this engine, I think. Like, I thought the, slight wetness to Jill's hair, like, when she's in the sewers and things like that, and stuff like that throughout the game is, really stunning. Like, the game, it looks so good.
I am curious, because I haven't played RE2 since last year. I am interested if I want to see side by sides. Be like, because I still feel like it's, like I said, very much probably made at the same time, so it's probably the same engine. But I'm curious.
It is the same engine, yeah.
I mean the same everything. But
they're gonna look very close to one. I think this one had a lot more things that stood out to me, though. Like, RE2 takes place in some very muted environments, like a dark police station, a dark sewers.
That was my favorite part. In this
this game has, you're walking through streets, and there's neon signs on everywhere. And just, the way the
so
lighting
it's generally the
illuminate,
way they looked.
the way the lights illuminate in the environment, I think, looked way better. I just think this game looks a lot more crisp than RE2 did, but that could be a result, I guess, more of what you're exploring rather than the graphics or the engine themselves.
Because there are very heavily lit areas in certain places later too that look pretty good.
Yeah, there's some.
Yeah.
This is the first game I've ever taken a screenshot in on my PlayStation.
Nice.
I can't talk about the part that I did it during, but there's a really cool part of the game that looks visually cool.
Yeah.
I wish I could say what it was.
It's when you boot the game up and you got that halo effect.
Yes.
I guess just so one more broad question, and then I think we can get going and wrap this up. Do you guys think they're going to? This doesn't really have anything to tie in with what happens in this game necessarily, but You guys think they're going to continue with these remakes now or what? Because after RE2, it was a very obvious and logical next step for fans to be like, well, make RE3 now. Do that too. Like, I mean, is the next logical thing to ask for Code Veronica now in this style of remake? And if so, do you think Capcom is going to do that? Or do you think we're... Like, personally, I think we're on pace to get Resident Evil 8 next. Yeah. That seems most likely.
That's my hope. That's my hope, is 8 is next, and then they do... After that, come back with some remake.
I think there's some evidence in this game that suggests that 8 would be the next one, but I would love for them to do Code Veronica.
Yeah.
100%.
Code Veronica would be great.
Yeah.
Code Veronica would be really good just because that game, again, like I said before, I was looking it up the other day, the easiest way to play that game, and it's probably on Xbox 360 through Xbox One backward compatibility. It's probably the most...
Was that Xbox One, the original? Really? I didn't even know that.
It came to 360 eventually.
Really?
Is it not on?
I was gonna go find a Dreamcast.
It was like a port they did. So it was like a PS2. It came to I played it on PS2 originally back in the day. So it was like a PS2. It was like that port that they then ported to 360 and PS3 digitally, I think. Yeah. And then that became backward compatible on Xbox One later on.
You can play it.
It's probably on the iPad.
Probably, yeah. It's like a port of a port that is accessible on current gen hardware.
Yeah, that's right. Touchscreens only.
So yeah, I think if they remade Code Veronica next, that would make a lot of sense and would be really cool to see.
The true RE3?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of ties off the whole Raccoon City narrative there, which is ironic because it has nothing to do with Raccoon City.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game's really nuts. I was actually looking up story details of Veronica the other day because I forgot about it. That game is insane. I forgot about everything with like all the twins or the brother and sister and like just that game's bizarre. It's very good.
I want to see them do the take that they did with 2 and 3 and modernize that story. Like, to me, this felt way more grounded than, obviously, I mean, because they're catching up to the times. So if they could do a modern taking of that game, that'd be fantastic. I don't think we need to touch 4 still.
No, 4's ported to every new console that ever hits the market. Like, we'll probably have PS5 and Xbox Series X ports of that game later this year.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to port 4. I think it holds up totally well today. So, yeah, I don't think 4 is coming anytime soon. I think if anything, we'd get Code Veronica, and then that would just kind of be the end of it, and then they would figure out something else to do. For sure. But 8's what I want. 7 was excellent. So I am very excited for another first-person edition of that series.
I've never played 7. I've only watched my friend play it because I'm too chicken. So
you should play that game. Dude. It's really good.
Now I want to. No. Now
I have a VR headset. You can play it in VR.
Sweet. Mail that out to me right now.
I actually played through I know we're getting way off topic, but I played through the first third of that game in VR, and then when the dad started chasing me around too much, I was like, I think I gotta be done. Yeah, I can't do this anymore. Anyway, Resident Evil 3 though. Again, I think we're all a little bit more critical of it than RE2.
Yeah.
In general though, extremely good game.
Yes.
I'm very glad that Capcom decided to bring this back. I'm very glad that it is out. I think if you were a longtime Resident Evil fan, or you're even somebody who just kind of jumped in last year with the Resident Evil 2 remake, you'll like this too.
Mm-hmm.
It's
sure.
very similar, but also very different in some respects. But overall, it's another high-quality game for Capcom to have published here.
I'm going to say this. A great rental. Real good rental.
Yeah. I think you are underselling it. There still is a lot of things to do in this game.
Is there?
Because
I played it twice.
A ton of unlockables, a ton of rewards you can get.
Yeah, they're not
all
that great.
Concept art and all those rewards and things like that you can get. All the character models. I feel like there's just as much as there was in RE2 last year in terms of that.
Well, here's what I hope that they actually... I mean, this is not spoilers because I don't know what any of this is. But in RE2 last year, there was that free DLC that actually had expanded stories. They were like one-offs. I would love for that to come to 3. I mean, there's some ways that you could expand on it, and I would love to see. Like, there are situations that happen that are not talked about or told. Those could be explored there.
Anyway, that's going to be it from us. Like I said, if you want to read Ricky's full review, I would say the score, but I don't think we have. Like I said, we're recording this a few days before the embargo, so we've got to finalize the written portion of this It's funny how time works in real life and not when you're listening to this. So we're still finalizing that review. Ricky's very high on it, so go read his review. It's in the description down below. And yeah, other than that, we have a lot of other Resident Evil 3 related content going out this week. Some pieces talking about how you can deal with Nemesis, how a comparison piece I think one of us has lined up talking about Mr. X and Nemesis and which one is better and who's better in each area. We have also got something we didn't talk about here, but a piece is going to go up talking about what it is like to play this game during the coronavirus pandemic, because that is kind of a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't put a damper on this game by any means, but it's just a weird thing.
Very weird.
So we're going to have some thoughts up on all kinds of things related to that. So be sure to keep it tuned to DualShockers.com over the course of next week. And we also should have a video review up here on our YouTube channel as well.
If I do my job right, yes.
If Mario does his job right. Again, things are very much in flux when we're recording this. So subscribe down below to our channel. We're going to keep review discussions coming like this for you throughout the rest of the year for all the biggest releases that are hitting. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this conversation. Hope you enjoyed Resident Evil 3 if you're looking to pick it up. For everybody here at DualShockers, thanks a bunch for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.